And welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Sports Frenzy. Phil Penarski here once again by our News 8 sports correspondents, Dean Holzwarth and Andy McDonald. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for stopping by. Glad you guys were able to brace the elements to get here and obviously catch us all up on everything sports-related happening in the state of Michigan. We're going to talk a lot about the Lions' new hire and offensive coordinator coming up in just a bit. Also, what the Indiana win in the national championship means for not only the Big Ten, but college football in general. We'll also be giving you Dean and Andy's picks for a championship weekend in the NFL. But guys, let's start again. I think this is the third week in a row where we're starting the show with some hockey. We're not talking about the Red Wings, though, and we're not talking about the Griffins this time. We're talking about collegiate hockey because something really cool, something you really don't see very often in really any sport, and that is the fact that the top three teams in men's college hockey all reside in the state of Michigan. At the top, number one, you've got Michigan, the Michigan Wolverines. Number two, the Michigan State Spartans, and then at number three, the reigning champs, the Western Michigan Broncos. Guys, this is less of a conversation about who we think might be better amongst those three teams, and more so about how cool it is that all three of these teams, again, are not only the top ranked teams, they're arguably by quite a fair margin, probably the top teams in all of the country right now. So again, just really cool to have it all happen, kind of all line up like this.
Yeah, it's definitely appropriate that we're talking about ice hockey.
Yeah,
without the ice outside and everything like that.
Sure.
And you did say Phil is pretty cool as ice. So
there we go.
I think that was an unintentional pun.
We're on a roll today.
You're welcome. So we're just out this way. It's great. Obviously, we watched Western Michigan win the national championship last year, and obviously they're playing well again. And then Michigan State up there, as well. So Michigan 20-4 right now. I think they've lost the last couple games to Wisconsin, but no, they're playing very, very well right now. I have here. Western Michigan is led by a couple brothers, Grant Slaginski. I know I was going to mess up that name. And Hampton Slaginski. He's the goalie. Grant's the point leader right now. Grant actually had 70 saves in 2 games last weekend, which was pretty crazy. And Western Michigan's won 7 in a row. So all three teams playing very, very well, and it's great for the state of Michigan.
Yeah, Western's the kind of team that we know how dangerous they can be when they get hot at the right time of the season. That's for sure, with what they've done in recent years. But yeah, it's unbelievable to see. I mean, I guess I really shouldn't say unbelievable in a way, because the three teams that are up there, you kind of could have expected they would have been in the top 10 of the country this year. But to see it line up, or when they do, I mean, Western obviously doesn't play Michigan State and Michigan as much, but the fact that Michigan State play each other, kind of able to beat up on each other a little bit, they're also find themselves at the top of their rankings at this point in the season. That's a pretty cool thing to see. I was able to see Michigan State when they were here in person play the GLI. They dominated that tournament. There wasn't a team that was really, really close to them at all. Michigan Tech, who I believe they're ranked 18th, 19th on this week's ranking, so they do deserve a mention. They host that tournament every year, and they're in the rankings too. They did keep up with them for a period, but it's just Michigan State just looks so good. That's the team that's determined with some of the problems that they've had in the NCAA tournament the past few years. They've been maybe a favorite to go all the way to the championship game, or at least the Frozen Four, and they've had some very, very disappointing losses early in the tournament. So they're completely focused. Augustine, their goalie, is obviously somebody that a lot of Red Wings fans have their eyes on and hope actually ends up coming to Detroit. But yeah, so that's something that people are watching for sure. But yeah, Michigan's just kind of been winning and doing it all season too. So I mean, it's just been either one of those schools, you could watch them, they've been doing great, and Western's picking it up at the right time too. So I would expect, I think if there was one bet that you had to make that was pretty safe right now, I think you could say almost that 2 of these 3 teams will be in the Frozen Four if they don't have to play each other. I think it's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, I was going to ask, that was going to be kind of my next question. I mean, do we see this potentially ending the season with them being ranked 1, 2, and 3? Not going to say who was 1, 2, or 3, but I mean, could we see kind of that line up, or at least, see these teams finish in maybe even the top 5 to end the year?
I think top 5 maybe, but hockey's an odd sport. People, I mean, they're gonna, one of these 3 teams is definitely going to lose a game or 2 the rest of the way. I mean, it's just how it goes in hockey. Sometimes you have it more than somebody else. Sometimes everybody uses the famous puck luck term. It really is a true thing though. Sometimes one goalie just gets hot in the other end and somebody gets a lucky bounce and that's the end of the game. So I think that they'll definitely face some more losses, but that's hopefully something they could just avoid when they get to the postseason. That's, I think, the main thing on any of these teams' mind right now, because I think at this point, just stay focused and keep putting together wins. And I doubt that they're really looking at the rankings themselves. I think for us, it's just impressive to see that all 3 of these teams are thought that high of around the country.
Yeah, definitely. If you remember last year, Michigan State was upset early in the NCAA tournament, and they were favored to win that. I think they were ranked number 1, to be honest, when they lost. So, like Andy said, anything can kind of happen in hockey, and the puck can fall either way. So, no, but I expect these teams to be in the top 5 as well, in this season, and it would be great to have a couple of them in the Frozen Four.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll all be kind of close eye on them. And speaking of the Western Michigan Broncos, I want to shout out my friend Phil Sklar. He is the president. He owns the National Bobblehead Museum over in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He was kind enough to send us these Western Michigan bobbleheads that you can kind of see here. Again, I got the mascot here with the stick. This is from when they won the national championship. So very cool. Wanted to thank and shout out Phil Sklar and the the National Bobblehead Museum and Hall of Fame. So. Definitely wanted to get that in there.
That's not going on eBay soon, right?
No. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yes.
The Lost
Sticking with Western fans, trust me. Yeah.
Their student section too, Lost and Lunatics. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a game there.
You say the Lost and Lunatics?
Lost and Lunatics. That's what they call themselves.
Great name.
It is seriously one of the best student sections I think in all of sports. They are awesome. Their chants are like perfect. I mean, that some of them are definitely don't want to bring your kids around. They definitely fill the hockey role perfect there. That's for sure.
Yeah, love that. Again, a great place to check out a hockey game for sure. All right, well, let's stick with the collegiate level, but move on to a different sport. Now let's talk some college football. Obviously, the big game happened on Monday between the Indiana Hoosiers and the Miami Hurricanes in the national championship. Indiana was able to avoid really a pretty big upset. It looked like maybe for a portion of that game closer to the end, and able to come out on top. They were able to complete arguably one, if not the greatest college football turnaround of all time. Probably one of the best turnarounds in all of sports history, honestly, just from where they were as one of the losingest programs ever to winning a national championship, going undefeated. This really does, whether we maybe acknowledge it right now or not, kind of changes the college football landscape just a little bit. This is the third straight season in a row that an SEC team has not won a national championship. And I know we can all kind of remember back in the day, it was pretty much every single SEC champion was arguably going to win the national championship. And now it's kind of flipped a little bit in favor of the Big Ten.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it was definitely like just a Bama Georgia rotation is what it kind of seemed like at one point or another. It was like one of those two teams going to make it. And if it wasn't, it was like Joe Burrow's LSU or something like that. But no doubt, it was impressive to see what they did. And I think that the coolest part about all of it is that it really didn't have that much to do with NIL in the era where that's all everybody talks about, because a bunch of these people came from JMU over with Coach Kurt
13
Cignetti.
guys from JMU.
Yes, that's what makes that so impressive is the fact that they did it that way and Cignetti did it his way. I mean, he's obviously I think he's one of those guys that you love him if he's with you on your team. Otherwise, you're kind of like, this guy's kind of weird. But at the end of the day, he gets the job done as a coach, and it doesn't matter. And all these people saying he's going to go to the NFL, I think that'd be the craziest thing ever, just because of the fact like you're the face of that program, like you are a legend. I mean, no one will ever not talk about you, no matter what.
Yep. And you're 63 years old.
Yeah,
like constructing a statue right now, apparently in Bloomington.
Yeah, he's gonna. I mean, wherever that guy goes, he's getting something for free when he walks in anywhere in the state of Indiana. That's for sure. I mean, maybe even around it. So yeah, it's definitely a really cool story. I think that it does change a lot of things for like it shows that coaching still can make a huge difference when it comes to no matter what kind of talent you have, or obviously coming in the year when we think about like closer to home, it was Bryce Underwood was like the big story, and it was going to change everything for Michigan just because of who he was and how much money he was making. I mean, that shows that sometimes that's not like all that matters. It's about getting people to buy in and having a coach. And I think that, with the way that things kind of ended with Sharon, obviously that's not why he lost his job, but I don't think those guys were necessarily coached up the best to play the best. And that's why if you're a Michigan fan right now, you're looking at Kyle Whittingham, hoping that he can do the same kind of thing, like change the program and bring a new culture and make them win a little bit more. I think that Cignetti in Indiana is the best example of that right now, that if you believe in your coach, you believe in your system, and you believe that you can do it, you can beat anybody. Because what they did to Alabama, that's something I never thought that I would. I mean, obviously this is not the Alabama that was coached by Nick Saban, but it's like I just never thought I would see that score and that kind of game from an Indiana football team. So yeah, it definitely changes things. I don't know if it necessarily takes. I wouldn't go as far to say like that they're the face. Like technically they are. I still think Ohio State with what they've done in like I don't know how many recent years with how much they've won and how consistent they've been over all these years, and they still were good this year. I think that they still have an argument of being the face of the Big Ten, but regardless, Indiana's not a joke anymore. Nobody's laughing about it. That's for sure.
No, if you look at what Cignetti has done, just the buy-in from his players. And I think the one thing that was maybe overlooked is like there was such an experienced team, right? Like there were grown men out there, right? Because 21, 22 years old. So you didn't have a bunch of young guys. You had some, the transfer portal guys from James Madison and other guys he brought in. And he was kind of grumpy. He didn't really smile very much, but like he knew how to get the most from his players. And it was impressive to watch. They are no longer the doormat of the Big Ten. And it was funny. I heard Nick Saban say something about North money. Big Ten's winning right now because of all the North money. And all this not shady stuff, but like obviously when SEC was winning, we all know that Alabama and those Southern schools, were maybe not. Or skirting the rules, maybe a little bit. It makes you wonder
if players were getting paid down there before they were supposed to.
100%.
There was some form of advantage for them.
I was trying to be nice about it, but yes. And so now, with NIL, it's everybody's getting paid now. So you're seeing the Big Ten teams now kind of flourish, and SEC teams aren't doing as well as they used to. So
what's his point? Great. What's his point even if he says that about Indiana though? I really don't get it. Like it's not because they paid people a lot of money
100%
to win there. I mean they have a bunch.
It was kind of crazy.
Have a bunch of guys from a lower major like that to come there and play and win like that. It just seems more like it was the best team in the country, and there's really not an argument
100%.
about it.
If you guys looked at Hard Rock Stadium, the fans and the support of Indiana was 75%. I bet. If you really looked around,
people are dropping their life savings. That's for sure.
Mark Cuban obviously, is a big what is my word?
Donor.
Yeah. For Indiana, and I think it was just a great story. He's as class as you can get as far as just like a person and everything on with his mom having MS and. It's just a great story overall, and I was really happy to see that.
And the fact that it was Lee Corso's last year on a college game day, and they go and do that, pretty crazy.
We talked a lot about Curt Cignetti and his unbelievable ability to transform this team into a national championship in just 2 years. And I think that kind of begs the question about how much pressure are we going to be putting on the two new guys in the Big Ten teams here in Michigan with Michigan State and obviously Michigan hiring two new coaches. I mean, how much pressure are we putting on them to maybe succeed, maybe not necessarily win the national championship, but at least get to the playoff by year 2?
Yeah, I think Michigan obviously has the best chance to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like State, we'll see what Fitzgerald can do over there at Michigan State, but I think they're far from competing to be in the college football playoff. Michigan's got that more realistic chance, especially with some of the guys that actually are staying at Michigan now, I heard recently. So, and you're going to have a better coaching staff at Michigan now, right? You're going to have adults in the room, and you're going to actually, they're going to coach these guys up, and Bryce Underwood's going to be better next year. So, no, Michigan's got that better chance. So I don't think there's any pressure necessarily on Kyle Whittingham, but, I think Pat Fitzgerald just wants to get them, Michigan State, to respectability, in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great goal for him to set if he wants to do that, but I think that he has to think higher than that just because that's today's college football. I mean, it's like you don't have time anymore, especially if you do. I mean, obviously Michigan State doesn't have the donor money that Michigan has probably coming into their program, but you're still I mean, it doesn't matter. What Indiana just did, I think makes it kind of worse for Pat Fitzgerald because again, we just mentioned it, all these players from JMU, a bunch of people that aren't exactly 5-star recruits, and they go and do that. I'm not saying that you should, in my opinion, college coaches deserve a lot more time than 1 to 2 years, but that's just not the way that it works right now in the world of NIL. You're expected to find a way to flip it and get transfers to come and play for your team and maybe make them, your guys in that way. It's almost like your recruits at this point with the way that college football runs. So, I mean, again, we look at it on paper and we think that Michigan State can't do something. I didn't think that Indiana was going to be this good this year. I can tell you that much. I'm not saying that story happens all the time, and it's probably not going to happen every year. If I were to bet on it, I would say that Michigan State probably wouldn't be good enough to reach the playoff next year. Yeah. But I think that they definitely want to push for that, and I would imagine that's already the goal that Pat Fitzgerald's probably putting in place there. Michigan is definitely the team that's in the better position. They went 9-3 a year ago in the regular season. Looked pretty good at times against Texas in that bowl game, if you ask me, and one of the actually more interesting bowl games to end the year because a lot of the players actually played in that game that mattered to that team for both sides. But yeah, so Michigan is in a better position, but Kyle Whittingham's also a first-year coach too. Not like first year, but you know what I mean. Yeah. It's his first year with Michigan, so it's going to be completely different for him. He's never competed against these Big Ten teams in a regular basis, so it'll be interesting to see if either one of them can make it. But to answer your question, Phil, I think that the whole thing with Indiana, it definitely adds a lot of pressure in general, just to any school in the conference around it because of how they were able to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and a side note, how cool is it that we have some parity now in college football, right?
Yeah.
I think it's so much more exciting, awesome. and the playoff was great, and just not to see, like you said, your Floridas, your Alabamas, your Georgias, your LSUs, now you kind of feel like, depending on how you kind of structure your program, that anybody can win, the national championship. So and Indiana's just an example of that.
It's kind of crazy because if Carson Beck would have won that game, he would have had to go down as one of the best college football players of all time, just because of winning 2 national championships with 2 different teams that.
But the guy who hasn't went to a class in 2 years, I heard.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I graduated 2 years ago.
Hey, who needs to go to class when you're competing for national championships?
That's a whole other bag of chips.
It is. That was so weird to me.
Yeah.
What class?
That's absolutely crazy how you're allowed to play that long after. Yeah, but I guess. I mean, good for him, but that pass he threw to end the game, I guess he didn't deserve to win with the way that it ended there.
Came up a little short.
Yeah. Really cool to see Indiana complete it. Are they maybe? We're jumping way ahead of schedule right now, but
way too early top 25.
Are they maybe the favorite in the Big Ten? Well, we won't go the whole country, but in the Big Ten at least going into next season. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza won't be there, but we've already seen the transfer portal kind of help them with Nick Marsh from Michigan State already agreeing. He was probably their best offensive player, one of them, and he's already committed to go to Indiana. So I guess is Indiana maybe the favorite going into next year as well?
I think they will be, just out of respect of what Cignetti has done there since he's been there. They will probably be the number 1 ranked team going into the season, what they're able to do. But everybody's going to give them their best shot. That's the thing about being number 1. It's not that easy to be in Ohio State and all the years they were that good, or Alabama and all the years that they were good in a complete dynasty. It's not that easy to just do that. I don't think that they'll win it all next year. I don't think that's really even going on a whim saying that. That doesn't happen for a lot of teams like that. But they definitely will be the favorite going into the year.
Yeah, and hey, Phil, Mendoza's brother just transferred yesterday.
Oh, he did?
Yeah,
he went that changes everything.
He went... I can't think about it right now.
But he's gone.
He is gone from Indiana.
That's a big deal.
So,
for sure.
but no, if he continues that culture, I think he can do what they did last year, make the college playoff and be a consistent force in college football. I don't see them going anywhere as long as Cignetti's kind of at the helm. But yeah, I just think that anybody can win in this day and age, and that's great to see.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm checking right now to see where he's transferring to Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech. That's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we've got that cleared up. So now Indiana will not have Fernando Mendoza 2.0.
Didn't Georgia Tech just get somebody last year or something like that was worth a lot of money too? I'm pretty sure. I can't remember what the player was, but they must have something going on over there.
Calvin Johnson.
If they're pulling him away, Calvin Johnson. If they're pulling him away from Indiana, that seems pretty crazy to me. Just because, why would you want to leave there right now? But
unless they're about to get a crazy transfer in.
Yeah, something that he knows that they already told him or something.
Right, maybe there's someone better.
That's the way this works nowadays. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, maybe Fernando will try and get another year. He does not want to go to Vegas. I probably know that.
Yeah,
with the number 1 pick. Well, that kind of transitions us perfectly into our next topic, and that is all about the NFL, specifically with the Detroit Lions. Again, the season is over for them, but they had an offensive coordinator position that they were looking to fill, and they did so, not with any of the top guys that we kind of mentioned last week, but with the former offensive coordinator of the Arizona Cardinals in Drew Petzing. Now, I did not know a whole lot about Drew. I did do my research, so I do have some stats for you guys coming up in just a little bit, but I guess just initial reaction to kind of going a little bit out of left field for this hire. Again, we had spent quite a bit of time maybe thinking about Mike McDaniel or Brian Dable or some of the other former head coaches that were now looking for a job, but they decided to go with another offensive coordinator.
Yeah, for me, it's a little surprising because he wasn't on anybody's radar,
right?
Like you said, Phil. But apparently, obviously, he has some ties with some people, and obviously, I think he was in Ben Johnson's wedding, and they have a good relationship, and so no, it's a surprise, and I think a lot of the Detroit Lions fans are a little bit like, hey, Arizona wasn't very good,
right?
But my thing is, I just don't think that Arizona had the same weapons, as the Lions do, right? And so, obviously he's an offensive mind, and it all kind of depends on where what kind of players you're dealing with. And obviously, Trey McBride did a great job under him, so maybe Sam Laporta can benefit from this hiring. But yeah, obviously a surprise. And then when I saw what he looked like, that was kind of a surprise too. No, I just think that the Lions didn't get the popular choice, but hopefully this guy does work out and he takes the play calling board away from Dan Campbell.
Yeah, no, I think that I think it proved that it was too much for Dan to be calling plays last year. But yeah, you said it. Petzing was in Ben Johnson's wedding. He's close with Ben Johnson. And what does he like to do? He likes play action. He likes to run the ball. So I think the Lions are admitting without saying it that they want to get a Ben Johnson back on their offense without it being Ben Johnson. Because obviously that's not what it's going to be. Sometimes it's not wrong, in my opinion, to admit that maybe you're missing something that you had before, because clearly when Jared Goff doesn't have a guy that he works with well when it comes to offensive coordinator, it's a problem. Obviously the same things are going to arise no matter what for me if they don't fix it, which is the offensive line first and foremost. They're going to have to fix that. But like what you said, Dean, they do have better talent. If they're going to hire this guy, it really would suck if they got rid of David Montgomery, because the Cardinals actually ran the ball pretty decent last year. And they didn't have a great offense.
James Conner before he got hurt, and
they used a couple of different running backs.
Exactly, and they still were good, and they moved the ball, and they didn't have the best offensive line out there in the NFL or anything by any means. And then they brought in Jacoby Brissett, and he put up the numbers that he did every single game. So I think obviously a lot of Lions fans are freaking out about this, and it seems like there's a lot of issue. You should definitely let this one play out. I get it. It's not like the biggest hire. I kind of want them to go outside the box. I think they still did that in a way. Obviously, this guy has that relationship with Ben Johnson, so maybe that's why some people are thinking like, oh, they're just doing the same thing they've been doing every year. I do feel like there was a reason for this. Like, I'm sure you guys have seen that clip going around with Amon-Ra talking about how like the fans like need to pipe down a little bit because they've been talking about it, like let this play out and stuff. If I'm Amon-Ra, I don't do that, because the fans are the reason that he's doing what he's doing right now, and I feel like you never attack the fans. But at the same time, I can understand what he's saying. I think the situation deserves a little bit of time to breathe before you like judge it so much, because as much as John Morton was not a good hire, and the first one, Anthony Lynn, was not a good hire, they did hire Ben Johnson too. So at the end of the day, you got to give this one some time to breathe, and I think that maybe they're trying to get back to what they did right when they were good. So we'll see how it goes.
Right, and I think at first I was again kind of in the same boat, a little surprised. I had no idea who Drew Petzing was, and then kind of doing my little bit of research and then kind of thinking about it. It's maybe a little bit of a better decision not to maybe pick a former head coach, because you never know how those personalities are really going to clash. I was the top dog in my old organization, and now I have to answer to this guy. I mean, that could also play into it. So I get the kind of moving away from maybe just bringing in the highest named guy you could find, and maybe just going a guy that maybe could fit a little bit better. But again, will be interesting to see. Just right off my notes right here, Drew Petzing is, of course, only 38 years old, but he's spent well over 13 years with NFL teams, starting as an intern with the Cleveland Browns all the way back in 2013, I believe. In his time, his 3 years with Arizona, though, their offense, total offense, was ranked 19th, 11th, and then 19th in those 3 years. So again, kind of middle of the pack, but how much of that is Arizona and how much of that is him? Again, time will tell. I think Andy's point of just kind of waiting and see is probably the best bet. But what do you really hope to see out of this new offense then, with a new guy calling plays?
I mean, I think you want to see that running the ball come back that they had in the past years. And that's where, like, if they get rid of David Montgomery, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the draft, because you feel like you'd want somebody else still besides Gibbs to kind of lessen the load. But I think Lions fans just want to see what the offense was a couple of years ago when they went 15-2. I think you want to see the play action game come back into play because of the fact that they can run the ball. I think that's kind of where it starts. So hopefully he's able to bring that. I mean, Dan Campbell, like, as much as we want to laugh about it, or people might say that I'm crazy for this, I think that if they don't do well this year, I think you have to start to say maybe he'd be on the hot seat a little bit, because at that point they haven't won a playoff game in 3 years if they had a bad season. So I do think that he cares about this hire, and I think that he sees something in this hire. And to me, what I'm reading from it is I think what all Lions fans want to see. They want to see the same kind of offense that they had that clicked and worked so well before. Maybe not as much as like the gimmicks and the trick plays and stuff like that. I think people just want to see back to the basics, which is running the ball, moving the ball 5 yards a carry-ish, and having a play-action game that opens everything else up for Jared Goff. Because what we saw from Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams both finishing the top 10 receiving yards this year, that's only going to get better if they find a way to run the ball, and those guys can be even more open. So
yeah, Andy's right. It's just kind of playing to the Lions' strengths, right?
Yeah.
Like just doing what they did, like you said, to have that 15-2 season. But I do think it starts with coaches can't control the health of your offensive line, right? The Lions have to shore up that offensive line to protect Jared Goff, because obviously he's much better when he has a clean pocket. So I think it kind of starts right there. Getting an improved offensive line and guys who are going to go in there and be able to run block and pass block for Gibbs and whoever else, and then open up everything else. But the play action is going to be huge. But yeah, I mean, it's not like the Lions were terrible this past season, right? I think top 3 scoring offense in the league. But they just have to get back to, like you said, the basics and doing the things necessary to be able to finish games. That's one thing they did not do this year, was finish games. And hopefully he can help do this.
The consistency will be huge, I
Yes.
think. If they're able to do it week in and week out.
Yes.
Maybe don't go for 50 and then 10.
There's
Maybe
my
go
good
for
word.
25
Yes, that's a
both
great
weeks,
word.
something
Yes,
like that.
consistency.
Exactly. All right, well, let's spend a little bit of time as we approach the end of the show today talking about the NFL playoffs. We've got Championship Sunday coming up this weekend. It's going to be two great games with the Rams taking on the Seahawks in the NFC Championship, and in the AFC Championship, you have the Patriots and Broncos. The Rams and Seahawks. Let's take that one first. Rams, escaping a game against Chicago.
Thank
Seattle, on the
goodness.
other hand, dominated San Francisco. I mean, how do we kind of view this matchup? Obviously, you probably had a harder matchup if you're the Rams against the Bears, maybe getting a little bit of prep in time. But again, Seattle just looks so good against a San Francisco team that made it to the divisional round of the playoffs. They're no slouch.
This was arguably one of the best games of the year, if not in the past 10 years when they met in the regular season.
Right.
Towards the end there with that crazy play they got called back on that penalty or whatever it was. I forget what the penalty exactly was. It the 2-point conversion? I think that's what it was.
Like the forward pass.
Yeah, at the end of the game, the forward pass, the fumble. That's what it was.
Yes,
I remember that game came down to that crazy play and that ended that way. So it's on both their minds. I feel like sometimes in the playoffs when you have a game like that for Seattle, it's not always the best thing in the world because you kind of like lull your way to a win, and then everybody's telling you how good you are. I feel like with the Rams, like that was kind of a tough way to get that win in Chicago when it was that cold outside. So for Seattle, I don't know. I like both these teams so much. They match up so well together. Yeah. I feel like there's no way it's not a close game. In the end, I'm going to take the experience of Matt Stafford. I think he's going to get back to a Super Bowl. I think the Rams are going to get it done.
Yeah, I'm going to take Seattle in that game. I just think this is Sam Darnold's time. I think that
it's got to be.
I think that Seahawks don't have any really weaknesses. There is special teams. Obviously, you saw the kickoff return and the running game and just what Darnold's been doing. I just think Seattle's playing at home. I think this is just Seattle's time. It kind of reminds me of the Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll team that won the Super Bowl back in the day. But yeah, I see them going.
Regardless of what happens, I hope that the Seahawks learn from Minnesota and actually keep Sam Darnold this time. Like stop moving on from the guy. He's won how many games the last 2 years? Just keep the quarterback.
Yeah, I just like Stafford beating the Bears because that Caleb Williams pass was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
so I'm just glad the Rams were able to
Number 14
prevail.
might be getting investigated in coming years for what happened on that play on defense. Are you kidding me?
Defensively, I can't even explain to you why did you let someone get behind you?
They were
on
both
that play?
it was like hand grabbing and then who was that Komet? He pushed off of him like a little bit, but it wasn't to the point where he would fall forward that much.
Exactly.
It's either he just like in his mind didn't know where he was at all of a sudden, or
the ball was in the air forever.
Weird.
How you're not bracketing that?
If anything, you're
Cole Komet and just knocking it away.
Yeah. If anything, you're pulling him down to the ground. And you're taking a pass interference. I mean, you're not doing what he did. It made no sense.
Yeah,
crazy.
Exactly.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, all very good points. We're all feeling the same thing. Yeah.
No, I mean, the amount of luck the Bears were having game in and game out was literally nuts.
At some point,
so, yeah.
All right, well, then to the AFC Championship we go. Kind of a repeat of some previous matchups that we've seen over the years with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, but it's two new guys up at the quarterback and an even newer guy for the Denver Broncos now that Bo Nix will not be playing in that game. It'll be Jarrett Stidham taking over for the Broncos. Guys, I feel like New England kind of is the heavy favorite now without Bo Nix, but again, Denver's defense could keep them in the game. Do you guys still maybe think there's a chance Denver could win, or are you guys rocking with New England?
I'm rocking with New England. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Patriots. I mean,
the second week in a row.
Yeah, second week in a row. I'm going to go back and check the footage.
Yeah.
I just think what they did with the Texans, was pretty impressive.
Right.
And Mike Vrabel is just an amazing coach. And I was hearing today just the connection he has with his players. And everything has kind of helped lead to the success of New England. And, we don't get to watch, I think, a lot of these teams play because we're always kind of watching the Lions. So it's kind of good to watch. I think NFL playoff games are so exciting. So you get a chance to see some guys you don't normally see in teams that you don't normally see. So I've enjoyed that the last few weeks. But no, I'm very impressed by Drake May and what he's done and just the job that Vrabel's done. So I think New England gets back to the Super Bowl.
As an active red zone owner, I watch way too much NFL. So, I think that's why I picked this team, because I kept being amazed every single week that the Broncos were moving on, like to the win streak that they had during the regular season, because it felt like they weren't that good of a team. They they found a way to win, and I think I would have been right picking them to go to the Super Bowl, but it's impossible. New England did prove to me they're not like just a joke. I thought that if you had to tell me like between the Bears and New England which team was more of a fraud, I would have told you the Bears every time. But you still had to question New England a little bit because they didn't have a very strong strength of schedule.
Yep.
And they don't have a lot of talent. Stephon Diggs is, I guess, their best player on offense when it comes to receiving, and Travion Henderson kind of turned it on at the end of the year. But yeah, I would have to go to the Patriots this time. You can't say that Stidham's going to come in and lead them to a win. I think it's more just about eventually the Patriots put up more points than Denver, even though I'm sure their defense is probably going to give it all they have and make it a lot harder on the Patriots than people think. It's just, at the end of the day, there's no way that the Patriots don't win this game.
It'll be exciting to see. We're very excited about another awesome weekend of sports. It's going to be very cold here in West Michigan, so we'll probably be...
minus 24-degree wind chill.
Exactly. We'll be inside checking it all out, and we'll be bringing you all of the latest next week right here on Sports Frenzy.